Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In case you haven't seen my community post that I put on over the weekend, I just wanted to take a minute and share with you some of the fun things that I made over the long holiday weekend. And I thought maybe we could make one together. This is a really fun granny square blanket that I made. It's just a big square that I did with some leftover yarn. I don't know about you, but I always have a lot of leftover yarn sitting around, and I try to sit there and think, what should I do with it? So I decided to do that over the weekend, and I also made a little companion to go with it that I thought was pretty cute. And if you're, an experienced crocheter, you don't need this video. You've probably done hundreds of granny square blankets. But if you're new to crochet, I thought it might be fun for us to take some of our leftover yarn and to do one together. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do another granny square blanket. And they're so versatile. You can use so many different colors. You can do one color. You can do, any combination you want. It can be a baby blanket like this one is with these colors, or you can do nice fall colors. We've got autumn coming up here. Might be nice to put together a bunch of different colors. If you're not that much of a fan on weaving in a lot of ends and all that kind of stuff, just use one or two. They're still just as wonderful. But it's a good technique to have if you haven't done granny square before, and it might be something that you enjoy doing. So let's go ahead and see what we need for this blanket. Okay, as I said, this is perfect for when you have some leftover yarn, not enough to do just one thing with it, but if you combine leftover yarn, you can do a lot of great things. So I'm just using a weight 4 yarn. This is a medium, and what I have left is this Bernat Super Value. Again, it's a 4, medium weight 4, and this is called Twinkle. It's got a lot of different colors in it, great for baby blankets. And this is one of the colors I'm going to use. I also have just some white Bernat Super Value that I happen to have. I always have white on hand, and I thought I would mix those two together. I might mix in some of these other colors as a solid, like maybe a light pink or a light green or something like that. But I'm going to start with these two, and we'll see where we get with that. But again, you can combine any colors that you like. You can also use any weight yarn if you want a weight 3 or something a little bit chunkier. You can do that too. It's really all up to you, and whatever you decide will determine kind of the size that you're going to make here. You can also make this any size that you want. You can make a small lovey like I did with this little guy here. So I just stopped going around. Or you can make something a little bit bigger. It's totally up to you on how you want to do this. So go ahead, get your materials together. You'll also need a crochet hook, obviously. I'm using a 5 for this one, for the weight 4 yarn that I'm using. You'll also need a pair of scissors and a tapestry needle of some sort. Whether you're going to weave in a lot of different colors or just at the beginning and end, you're still going to need a tapestry needle. So if you want to size your blanket to a particular size, you might want a tape measure available as well. So go ahead and get your materials together, and then come on back and we'll start this off. Okay, for my yarn, I'm actually going to start with the white because I have more of the white than the variegated, the Twinkle yarn. And I'll do larger sections in the white just because that's how it will work out for me. And so I'm going to do a fairly large section to start with in the middle of all white. And you can plan that all out depending on how much yarn you have and how many different colors you have. You can kind of plan all that out ahead of time based on how much you have. For this center, I'm actually going to start with a magic circle. If you haven't done that before, I'll attach a link to the tutorial in the description box below. I have a pretty detailed tutorial in there. If you're really dead set against doing a magic circle, you can just chain 5 and slip stitch into your first chain to make your own circle without using a magic circle. The only thing I would say with that is that you can't really control how large that hole is in the center. And I'll just show you really quickly with my blanket, the one I did over the weekend. Here is the center, and that's pulled pretty tightly so there's no hole there in the center. Depending on how you do with the chain stitch, with the chain and making a circle out of some chains, you know, you might have a bigger hole there, and if that doesn't matter to you, that's fine. So I'm going to use a magic circle, and like I said, however you want to do that, you do not have to start with this, but I just think it looks better. All right, so for me, I want to start with 3 double crochets. And to do that, my first double crochet is going to be an alternative turning chain, which I will do a link to in my description box if you haven't done that as well. But if you've been following my channel, you know what that is. So we're going to go in and start a single crochet. I'm going to zoom in here, sorry. So there's my single crochet. I'm going to put my hook in the left loop of that single crochet, yarn over, pull up, pull through 2, and now I have a stacked single crochet or alternative turning chain that counts as my first double crochet. I'm going to do 2 more double crochets. So here's 2, and then my third. 3. So there's my 3 double crochets. I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to do 3 more double crochets. All in that magic circle. Okay, and then chain 2. I'm going to do 3 more double crochets. We're creating our corners here. Okay, chain 2. And we're going to do that one last time, all still in that magic circle. There's my 3 more double crochets, and we're going to chain 2. Now we want to pull our magic circle closed to bring that around. And then here's our 3 double crochets that we started with. There's that alternative turning chain. I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that alternative turning chain to finish this row off. See right there? And I'm going to do a slip stitch to join that around. Now just to take a look at that, I told you what we're doing is creating our corners. So we kind of have a little square here, and here are our 4 corners right there. Okay? And you see that hole is kind of big there. If you take the string from your magic circle, you can tighten that right up and close it up. Yay! All right, now we're gonna do row 2. I'm not changing any colors yet. I'm sticking with white for right now. Like I told you, I wanna make a fairly large section in white in the center. But you could, as early as now, you could change colors. I'm not gonna do that yet though. All right, so I'm going to turn my work. All right, so I'm gonna turn it so that now we're going the opposite way. The tail should be on your side, facing you. And I'm gonna go into this chain 2 space right here. And I'm going to do a cluster, which is your 3 double crochets. So that's what we're working with all the time with this granny square, is always with a cluster of 3 double crochets. So we're going to start with an alternative turning chain like we did at the beginning. I'm going to go right into that first, that chain 2 space and do my stacked single crochet or my alternative turning chain. That will count as my first double crochet. Then I'll do 2 more double crochets. That's all that in this chain 2 space. We want to chain 2 and put 3 more double crochets still all in that chain 2 space. So we're all still in that corner space. And this helps to continue to shape the corners. All right? Now, no chain or anything, we're going to go right into this next chain 2 space over here, and we're going to do this same thing. We're going to have 3 double crochets, we're going to chain 2 and 3 double crochets. Every time you have a chain 2 space, this is what you'll do in the chain 2 space. A cluster, a chain 2, and a cluster. Okay? Our next one is a chain 2 space again, so we're going to do a cluster, which is the 3 double crochets. Sorry, yarn is getting caught there. A chain 2 and 3 double crochets. Okay, and then we'll do that one more time in this next chain 2 space. We'll do a cluster, chain 2, and a cluster. Okay, so we're back to the beginning. Here's our first cluster over here that we started with, and we're going to join to that first alternative turning chain, that first double crochet, with a slip stitch. And that'll join this second row. Okay, so now it's a little bit bigger of a square, right? And here are our 4 corners. You'll want to tighten that up again. It'll eventually stop doing that, so don't worry about that. All right, so there's what it should look like now. Corner, 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 and corner. All right, and we're going to go on to row 3, and we're going to turn our work. You're going to turn your work every time that we have a row. So every row turn before you start. Now here's that space. This is not a chain 2 space. This is just a space between 2 clusters, okay? So for that, you'll still want your cluster, but that's all you're gonna put in here. So you alternative turning chain and 2 more double crochets. When it's a space just between 2 cluster stitches like this and no chain, that's all you want, nothing more. Now here's a chain 2 space. This is a cluster. Chain 2 and a cluster, all in that chain 2 space. Okay. The next space here is just between 2 clusters, so it's just a cluster in that space there. All right. Then you come to the next chain 2 space, which remember, all these chain 2 spaces are your corners. So you'll do a cluster, chain 2, and a cluster, all in that chain 2 space. Okay. And you'll want to continue that around. Here's the next space. You're going to put in a cluster. Here's your next corner that has a chain 2 space. That's your cluster. Double crochet and a cluster. And one recommendation I make while you're doing this is just try to keep your tension nice and loose and your stitches loose. One problem with the granny square not laying flat is that you're very tense with your stitches, and your stitches are all really tight. You'll see them start to curl. So try to keep your stitches nice and light. Make sure you're not grabbing really hard or anything like that. It might take practice. That's okay. It's worth it. This stuff is fun. I hope you think this stuff is fun. I do. All right, that's just a normal cluster there. Here's your next chain 2 space. And this will be cluster, chain 2, and a cluster, all in that chain 2 space. I think this is our last corner. Okay, yep. So now we've gone all the way around. We're back at this cluster where we started, and you'll want to slip stitch directly into the top of that first double crochet, or in this case it was an alternative turning chain. See that? Right like that. Let's just take a look. Okay, so you can see it's nice and square. Here's your center. Your corners are right here. We'll want to tighten that loop in the center there, so it's got a nice tight center. See that? That's nice. And you have a nice square. So you'll want to continue doing what I just did, as many rows as you want. I think I'm going to do 8, and then I'll switch colors to this variegated, and that'll be fun. And I can show you that when I get to that point, and then we can go from there. But go ahead and do as many rows of your first color that you want. Come on back here, we'll change colors, and then I can show you how to switch to that new color and move on from there. Okay, at this point I have done my 8 rows in the white, and I want to finish this off and join my next color. So I'm just going to show you how I do that, and feel free of course to do that any way that you know how to do it. That's fine too, but in case you haven't done this, here is the end of where I joined my yarn to the top of that alternative turning chain, and I am just going to fasten off. There's no neat and clean way to carry your yarn through color changes and all that in a granny square. You don't really want to do that. So I'm just going to cut that, and I'm going to pull this right through. Now, you don't have to fasten your yarn off right now. I will tell you that if you're going to do a lot of color changes, I personally don't like having a bunch of tails to weave in at the end, so I do it as I go, and I think it looks a little neater and it keeps it out of your way. So I join these and get these all weaved in as I go along. Now you're going to need your tapestry needle for this, and I am going to thread my needle first. Now I don't like to hassle of trying to get yarn on a tapestry needle. So I just cheat with a little piece of paper that I fold in half and put my yarn down in there, and that paper fits right through the eye of the needle. Ta-da! And just makes it easier for me because I don't want to sit there and fight with it. So that's how I do it, in case that's helpful to anybody. So here we are, we've joined it to the top of this alternative turning chain here. So what I'm going to do first to make this look a little nicer, I'm going to go underneath the V of that middle double crochet there and pull that through. I'm going to have that up on top. Now here is the top of where I joined it, and here is the last double crochet in the cluster before. I'm going to put that through the left loop of the join. Just want you to see where everything is there. See that? Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see that. All right. So here's my join stitch. I put it under the middle double crochet, and I'm going to go back down through the join stitch. Okay, just like that. And it's just going to make it look a little neater, like there's another stitch there. And for me, I am just going to go through and weave this in. Now, I like to do like 3 and done. So typically I'll go through this 3 times. So one way, and then I'll go back the opposite way, put that underneath, and one more time. And on the 3rd time that I go through, I like to try to make it through the plies in the middle of a strand of yarn. It just holds it a little bit tighter, like that. And then you can pull that through and cut that off, and that will be out of your way, and you've got a nice join there, and that will be out of your way. Okay, so that's how we do that. And now we're going to join with our next color after I get this out of the way. So now that we have that tail out of the way, the first thing we want to do is turn our work. Just remember, we want to turn that every row. And now I'm going to take my variegated yarn, my Twinkle, and I'm going to join that where we just had that join from the previous round. So I'm just going to put my hook through that space where we want to start our next stitch. I'm going to grab that yarn and pull it through and do 1 chain. And then I'm going to go ahead with my alternative turning chain. So just like we normally do here, which will count as our first double crochet. Maybe, if I can get that through. There we go. All right, that's our first double crochet. Then for completing our cluster, we want 2 more double crochets in there. Oops, get that tail out of the way. All right, so we've got our 3 double crochets to start that off. And then you're just going to follow the pattern like you've been doing, a cluster in every space, and then the cluster, chain 2, and cluster in the chain 2 spaces, which are just your corners. So you only need to be doing that 4 times as you go around. The rest of the time you're just doing 1 cluster in each space like this. So when you get to the corner here, there's your chain 2 space, you do your cluster, chain 2, cluster, and then continue around. Now you can do as many rows as you want. You can go back and forth as often as you want, changing your colors. You can, as I said before, use multiple colors. This is just all you need to do, is continue going around with whatever colors you want. And every time that you have a new color, start it off like I just showed you. This is totally versatile and totally up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and do all the different rows that I would like to do. And then I'm going to come back here and just kind of show you what that looks like and finish it off. And what I'll do is I'll put the details of how many rows of each that I did for both this one and my blue and white one. I'll put that down in the comment box in case you want to follow along. So I'll do that, and then I'll come on back here and just show you how to finish it off. And here's what mine looks like. I've got my larger center section in white there, and you can see I have some stripes around with that Twinkle, that nice variegated yarn. And you can be done right here. The nice thing about a granny is that it's already kind of, you know, has this border of the granny shells or the clusters all the way around. So it's really can be done right here. The nice thing though, if you want to add a border, you can, and it's a little easier because you actually have stitches along all 4 sides for you to put stitches into, as opposed to trying to determine where they go along the sides. So there's definitely some pluses to doing a granny square blanket, as far as if you want to get decorative with borders and that kind of stuff. But you don't have to. Now, what I'm going to do with this, since I did end in white, and I have a little bit of my Twinkle left, my variegated one, I thought it might be nice just to do a single crochet row around, just to give it a little stripe of color one more time on the outside. Now, and you don't have to do this is just what I'm doing, but the difference here is when I join my yarn, I'm gonna join it in one of the double crochets, because that's all we're gonna do is put a single crochet in every double crochet around the edges. You're not gonna work into these spaces. The only time you'll work into spaces is in the corners. So I can show you that. I'm going to start near a corner here. And I am going to join my yarn. You can join it into any stitch that you want to. I'm just doing it here for the sake of the video. But you want to actually go into one of the double crochets, and like we've done before, pull through your yarn so that you have that. You're going to do just that one chain, and like normal, go ahead with your single crochet. So that chain's not going to count for anything there. Go ahead and do a single crochet there in that double crochet, and remember you can tighten this tail if you need to. And then do a single crochet in every double crochet around. And you can carry that tail. See, I'm including the tail in there just to get it out of the way. And you can, because you're going into all the double crochet rows, or excuse me, stitches, so that will hide that tail if you want to do that. Okay, so I'm doing this in every double crochet. There's one more double crochet there. Now when I get to the corner, remember we have a chain 2 there. There's where your chain 2 is. You're going to put in 2 single crochets in that chain. Get that tail out of the way, sorry. So there's one in that corner, and then we'll do another one in that corner. Now, if that ends up being too tight for yours, you could add a 3rd single crochet in there if you want to. If that turn isn't as nice as you'd like, you can certainly add a 3rd one. And then there's my 2 single crochets in that corner. And then I'm just going to continue on with putting a single crochet in every one of these double crochets. Right? So there that is. And that's what that will look like with that single crochet all the way around. Again, you don't need to. I just thought that might be nice with the pop of color. So I'm going to finish this off like this, and then I'll come back here and show you the finished product. So here's what it looks like at the end. And you can see I have that one little row of single crochet all the way around. I do think I like that. Like I said, just that little edging of color so that you've got another little pop of color along the edge. And I think this is kind of a fun way to use up some yarn. So you'll have to let me know what you think, and if you like this idea, and if you make it, you know, let me know in the comments what color choices did you do, and how did you do that? Because I think this is kind of a really fun, easy way to make some nice blankets, and I hope you enjoy this. And what I'll do, like I said, I'll put my rows of different colors in my description box, along with my blue one here that I also really like, that I think is fun. And I hope that you enjoy this video. If you do, give me a like and subscribe. That'll help my channel out. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put that down in the comment box below. I appreciate you stopping on by, and I will see you all next time. Thanks, everyone.